Beautiful morning here in Gettysburg. It's a little cool though, a little cold. It was about 23 degrees. That sets up in a wonderful situation because the park won't be quite as busy this morning. Hopefully, there won't be too many people walking by or cars driving by. But this is one of my favorite spots in the world to check out a sunrise. Of course, it's one of my favorite places in the world, no matter what. But just the overall feel you get here is something that is indescribable. First time you come here, it really is a cool experience, and it's almost addictive. It's like you come here the first time, and you just want to come back again and again and again. And you're not even really sure why. At least I know that's what happened with me, and I've sort of devoted my whole life to it now. I've taken an incredible risk of moving down here, and I feel like it's the right thing to do for me and my situation. And in life, you can have as much money as you want to, you can have all that, but if you're not happy, if you're not waking up every single day excited about the day and what the prospects are, then what's really the point, right? So again, this is we are located on Seminary Ridge. Now, Seminary Ridge was occupied by the Army of Northern Virginia during the Battle of Gettysburg. As you can see here, you'll see the cannons line up, and these are actually cannons from Pender's division and of A.P. Hill's Corps. And over here on the right is one of the more popular monuments here in Gettysburg. It is the monument to the state of Virginia. Robert E. Lee on top of his horse Traveler there on top of the monument. Beautiful monument. Again, dedicated to the men that fought here from the state of Virginia during the Battle of Gettysburg. Now, whatever your ideas and what your thoughts are politically, and it's understandable. Some people would rather not have this here. I personally think that it should stay here. I like the fact that with Confederate monuments, I think they teach history as well. And having them on a battlefield like Gettysburg, it's sort of just having them basically in a giant museum. So I think it's important to have these things here. And so we'll get more into that later on. But it's more about the battle. And this right here, this spot right here, is where the final fighting of Gettysburg took place. July 3rd, 1863, we had the first 2 days, which were kind of fought to a stalemate. Union Army, they occupied the hills surrounding the town from Culp's Hill, going south down to Little Round Top, Big Round Top, and they occupied sort of like a fish hook during the Battle of Gettysburg. Now, the Confederate Army was west of town, and that is where their line was, and that's where they attacked from, for the most part, west and north as well. And what we're seeing here, if you look in the middle, you see that little grouping of trees right in the middle of the shot here. That is a very famous copse of trees that was the main point of attack on the final day of the Battle of Gettysburg by the Army of Northern Virginia. After the first 2 days, again, they were kind of a stalemate. So generally said, you know what? Instead of attacking both flanks of the Union Army, why don't we go after the center? That's where I think our best chances of breaking the Union line was right at the center. So that's what they decided to do. And they took about 12, 13, 14,000 Confederates. They lined up in a giant line about a mile long. And the direction they went in was right towards that copse of trees right there. Hoping to break the Union line and send them into retreat and claim victory here at Gettysburg. Of course, that did not happen. It was a complete and total failure. The Union line not only held that position that we're looking at right now, but they uh, virtually destroyed the Army of Northern Virginia on that day. It was a massive failure. The Confederate Army suffered more than 50% casualties on that day. And that was really the very last time that the Army of Northern Virginia under Robert E. Lee mounted an offensive attack. Yes, the war went on for almost 2 more years, but for all intents and purposes, that really was the last time that the Army of Northern Virginia was a realistic, offensive threat. From the rest of the war on, they really were in a defensive posture. And as the war grinded on over the next 2 years, the superiority of the Union Army, as far as the amount of men they had, they just had a lot more money, and they were much more capable fighting force than what the South had. And the South grinded on. They only had so many men. Of course, their population was far, far, far less than what the Union had. And over time, that kind of just grinded down. And towards the end of the war, a lot of people from the South, they started to defect. They started to desert the Army. And what we saw at the end of the battle, at the end of the Civil War, was a very, very small skeleton of what we had at the height of the Confederate Army. And yes, the war grinded on for 2 more years after the Battle of Gettysburg. But really, this is where it was. This is considered by many as the high water mark of the Confederacy. And it was a make or break situation for the Army at this point. And not enough credit is given to George Gordon Meade, who had taken command of the Union Army just a few days before the Battle of Gettysburg. And nobody was able to beat Robert E. Lee. Everyone thought that Robert E. Lee and the Army of Northern Virginia was invincible. And that was kind of what gave into this charge on the third day, because Robert E. Lee himself thought that the Army of Northern Virginia was invincible. And of course, they were not. Soundly defeated here. And, again, not enough credit is given to George Gordon Meade for a resounding victory here at Gettysburg. You're going to hear a lot of names, a lot of famous names that came out of Gettysburg. Of course, we talk about Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, 20th Maine, his historic charge from right over there. Kind of hard to tell at this point, but that is the little round top over there. You're going to hear a lot about Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, 20th Maine, out of Gettysburg. You're going to hear a lot about the 1st Minnesota, the gallant charge that they had right over there, as a matter of fact, straight ahead on the second day. This little regiment of a couple hundred guys fended off an entire brigade of Confederates. And as we can see here, we see the first glimpse of sun right there. The sun popping up over Cemetery Ridge here at Gettysburg. Really my favorite place in the whole world to watch a sunrise. It really is amazing. So I'll kind of just sit back here, let you enjoy this, listen to the birds and the sight here at Gettysburg, and thank you so much for joining me here. A lot of people, they talk about their favorite places in the world. They talk about watching a sunrise from the beach, sunrise in the mountains, sunrise, their favorite places. But for me, nothing beats this. Nothing beats sitting here, Seminary Ridge, looking out over Cemetery Ridge, and just slowly watching the sunrise over this truly hallowed ground here in Gettysburg. If you haven't been here, I'm a firm believer that every American should visit this place at least once. Because the bottom line is that the United States of America was saved here. If that battle had gone a different way, it's very likely that the Union Army, could have been destroyed here, and it's very likely that the Confederacy could have won their independence here. It is not hyperbole to say that this is the most important ground that we have here in America to understand what happened here. Just to understand the importance of what happened here, the sacrifice that was made here for a new birth of freedom, not just for, the America that we knew before the Civil War, obviously, but for afterwards, a new birth of freedom for all Americans. And it could not have happened if it was not for what took place here in this town in Pennsylvania, Gettysburg, from July 1st through 3rd of 1863. So I really can't express enough. If you're able to come here, just come here once and go from there and just experience what it's like here. Experience the feel and the aura of Gettysburg. Because like you, but because like me, perhaps it will change your life and change the way you look at things. So I hope that if you haven't been here, but I hope you're able to make it here someday. And if you're not able to make it here someday, I'm hoping that what I'm doing here and what I'm doing in the future will give you an idea of what it's like here, and will give you the Gettysburg experience as well, as best you can get from your home or wherever you may be watching this. And, because I think that's what we're lacking a lot nowadays, is understanding of what happened in the past, our history. And I think that we need to do better. We need to have a better understanding of our history so that we can never, ever let the mistakes of the past happen again in America or anywhere else. And that's what we need to strive for here in America. And again, we are looking over Cemetery Ridge. This is where the final battle of the final fighting of the Battle of Gettysburg took place. And you see the copse trees there, many monuments in the distance, many landmarks. And the start to another beautiful day here in Gettysburg. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks so much for joining me for this live sunrise here in Gettysburg. Thank you so much for all your support, and we'll do this again soon. Much more to come from Gettysburg over the next few hours, days, weeks, hopefully years as well. Thanks so much for your support, guys. Really appreciate it.